Hey guys, so this is definitely a different type of video that we have not done. Today I'm going to be looking at a video from UsefulCharts is the YouTuber's name, and it's titled Changes to British Royal Titles Since the Death of Queen Elizabeth II. Which was a few years ago, I remember, like the Queen's death. The meme before she died is she'll never die, she'll live forever, and then, she passed away. Rip. And yeah, so this video is only 3 years old. I don't imagine it's too out of date, but then again, I'm not gonna pretend that I'm an expert in the royal family at all. So I don't know. If this is out of date, I apologize, but I'm just gonna watch it either anyways. And yeah, this is actually a unique experience to me because I've never watched a UsefulCharts video. Um, Not even in my own time outside this channel. So this is a new YouTuber for me to learn from. And overall, at least from skimming through his videos, he definitely goes through these charts videos of like lines and stuff like with, family lines and whatnot. But this one's gonna be like the changes of royal titles, which I'm really looking forward to learning more about because there seems to be a lot. Okay, so what there's the countess, there's dukes, there's duchesses, there's obviously the king. Okay, so sorry, I'm just trying to get it all just from the skimming of it all. So yeah, again, I don't really have much else to say other than we probably should get to it. But before I do, if you want to watch the original video from UsefulCharts, the link to this video is down in the description down below. It is the first link you will find. And if you enjoy my channel and want to help me out in any way, shape, or form, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It would really help out my small channel, and I would appreciate it very much. Now with that said, and now without any further ado, let us get to it, shall we? Let us watch the changes to British royal titles since the death of Queen Elizabeth II. I just realized this might be the most modern video we have seen on this channel yet, because I like covering history from the past. This is literally just a few years ago, and it bleeds into nowadays, so this is the most, yeah, this is the one of the most topical videos, or at least the closest to topical we've ever gotten on this YouTube channel.
Hi, this is Matt Baker. Today I'm going to show you the changes in royal titles that have occurred since the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. So this is what the line of succession looked like just prior to the death of the Queen. And this is what it looks like now. The most important
Oh.
change is, of course, that Prince Charles is now King Charles III. There had been some speculation over what regnal name he would choose, because monarchs actually do get to choose their name, but it
That's
was
kind of like the same idea as the Pope, right? Or their idea. I've heard that sometimes the popes take on different names, so that's really cool. Actually, I didn't know like that could be kind of fully applied to royalty. I just thought they win with their name, so that's interesting.
revealed during the Prime Minister's speech on the day that the Queen died that he had chosen Charles III. The other possibility had been George VII, being that most British kings since 1714 have gone by George. For example, the Queen's father had actually been called Albert, but when he became king,
Wow.
he was known as George VI. Even though
That is really cool. Like I said, I did not know that. I just thought like they were born George and they went with that name. Dang. That already has blown my mind. And I'm so happy that he's actually narrating, because I thought for a second, I was worried that this was going to be like those map videos, where I'm going to have to, like, just kind of piece everything together in silence, but I'm glad he's actually, like, guiding me through this. Thank God.
he had a younger brother named George. Camilla is now queen consort. It had previously been thought that she would use the title Princess Consort. However, during Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee, the Queen announced that Camilla would use the term Queen Consort.
Hmm.
Now, keep in mind that there is a difference between the type of queen that Queen Elizabeth was and the type of queen that Camilla is. Queen Elizabeth was a queen regnant, meaning that she was the reigning monarch, not her husband.
Mm.
However, Camilla is a queen consort,
Yes.
meaning that she's the wife of the monarch. The last
All
time
right, I got that for sure.
that the UK had a queen consort was in 1952, when Queen Elizabeth's mother, also called Elizabeth, held that role.
Mm.
She was not, however, Elizabeth I. Queen consorts don't get numbers.
Oh.
Queen Elizabeth I was the famous queen that reigned during Shakespeare's time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as soon as the queen passed, Charles's firstborn son William became both the Duke of Cornwall in England and the Duke of Rothesay in Scotland,
Mm-hmm.
because those titles are automatically given to any male who is first in line to the throne. Now, he already held the title Duke of Cambridge, so he is now a duke 3 times over.
Okay, all right. So this is something really interesting is that there are times I've tried to kind of look at like medieval like rankings in terms of like nobility, like, and it's a bit different throughout Europe, and obviously it's kind of hard to pin it down, but like I have heard, there's kings, emperor slash kings, there are princesses, dukes, I've heard earls, barons, and all kinds of stuff. And like I was always kind of interested in those titles, like, all right, how do they stack? And I said, like, sometimes it's a bit different in different parts of Europe, so it's kind of hard to just generalize everything. But so far, the way I'm gathering, it's that there's the king, and then where I thought like you would use the title of like prince for the next one in line, right? Which I guess it could still apply, but it's interesting with the duke. And I apologize for my ignorance, by the way. I'm like very, you know, unawares of the royal family. I don't really know much. I know, wait, what's,
In England,
okay,
he
wait. Yeah, I'm like aware of Harry and Meghan and, heard some things on and off about their marriage and stuff, like some of the tea going on there. But like I said, I'm very and also Princess Diana, who seems to have one of the best approval ratings I've heard. I have not heard anyone ever speak ill about this woman. Um it's wait. Yeah, Diana. I apologize. I always second guess myself when I say people's names, but yeah, so I do apologize with my ignorance. I do am trying to learn more. And obviously when it comes to like modern stuff, I'm more unawares because I like kind of learning more about past history. So yeah, I do apologize.
Cornwall in Cambridge. Cornwall comes first because it's the higher title,
Mm,
and his wife is the Duchess of Cornwall and Cambridge.
mm-hmm,
Their Rothesay titles are only used when they are in Scotland. However, the day
mm-hmm,
after the Queen's death, King Charles bestowed upon William the additional title of Prince of Wales. Now, this is something that did not happen automatically. The king had to actually bestow it. Traditionally, ever since the year 1301, the title has almost always been bestowed upon the heir apparent to
mm-hmm,
the English or later the British throne. Prior to this, the title had been used by actual Welsh monarchs who ruled the Principality of Wales,
mm-hmm,
which was an independent monarchy that existed from 1216 to 1283.
mm-hmm,
However, in 1283, Wales became part of the Kingdom of England, and hence the title is now used as more of a ceremonial one,
mm-hmm.
rather than being an actual title that indicates who's in charge of Wales.
Okay.
Now, because William is the new Prince of Wales, this means that his wife, Catherine, is the new Princess of Wales, the title Princess of Wales being simply a courtesy title. The last person to use it was, of course, William's mother, Diana. Technically, Camilla had the right to use it as well, but she chose not to, and prior to becoming Queen Consort, she was known as the Duchess of Cornwall. Previously, William and Kate's 3 children used the phrase of Cambridge after their names. However, they will now use the phrase of Wales. Their places in the line of succession have also gone up, with William's son George, in particular, now being second in line to the throne instead of third. Now, some people have asked why Harry is not second. Well, the reason is because European titles are usually passed down, not across, a system known as primogeniture. Keep in mind that if primogeniture was not used, this would mean that Andrew would be first in line, followed by...
Okay, that makes sense. You know, when I think of like fantasy, right? Like royal titles and stuff, like for instance, I was a big fan of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. Martin, and you know, like the famous Targaryen house and the family lines of that, and that, you know, like a king would have like 2 sons, right? And then the eldest son becomes the king, and then the title passes down to the eldest son's son. And the brother, you know, isn't the next in line in that sense. So, you know, that's kind of like a thing in fantasy, that yeah, things pass down and they seem to go by the, you know, this succession way. And so it's cool to see that, you know, that's kind of like what my mind went to. And yeah, it makes sense to go down instead of just straight, you know, to the side.
By Edward, rather than William, followed by George. And speaking of Harry, he does move up from 6 to 5 in the line of succession, but he and Meghan did not receive any new titles. In case you are thinking that the second-born son always receives the title Duke of York, no, this is not the case. Traditionally, a second-born son does often receive this title, but only if it is not already held by someone else. And currently, the title is held by the king's brother Andrew, so basically it's unavailable. However, there is one big change that has occurred with regard to Harry and Meghan's family. Their children Archie and Lilibet are now officially a prince and princess. In order to be a British prince or princess, one has to be either a child of a monarch, a grandchild in a male line, or a child of the heir's eldest son. Previously, William and Kate's children met the requirement, but Harry and Meghan's did not. However, now that they are the grandchildren of the king in a male line, they are automatically prince and princess.
Dang.
Now, whether...
All right, this is cool. I'm really liking learning about, you know, what qualifies, why some people can get the certain titles, what disqualifies them from getting titles, and just the change. This is really interesting. I'm definitely gonna have to relook at this video. Like once I'm done with this recording, I'm probably gonna have to relook at this a few more times to fully let everything settle in for sure. But I'm happy to finally be seeing that, because we have seen a lot of like geologies in terms of, you know, royalty on this channel's history. But you know, and who just gets new titles, and usually it's a more simplified thing. This is the first time though where it's actually being broken down about each title and how some titles, you know, are used and stuff. So I find that fascinating, and I'm appreciating how he's explaining it, because like I said, my worry before I got to this recording was that the Useful Charts was not going to have anyone break it down. They were just going to like show the images, and maybe I was going to have to piece it all together in my head. But I'm glad he's like kind of taking my hand, as it were, and really guiding me through this, so I can better understand. I thank you so much for that useful Charts. If you had been silent, I would have probably gotten a lot more wrong and had a lot more misconceptions. So, thank you for that.
Or not their parents will actually choose to let them use those titles is yet to be seen.
Hmm.
In a similar scenario, Prince Edward's two children were automatically born prince and princess, but their parents chose to have them use lesser titles instead. So those are the main changes, but let me point out a few more things. Obviously, everyone else moves up one place in the line as well, but I won't go through everyone because I actually did that in a previous video earlier this year.
Hmm.
I'll link to that in the description if you want to learn more about some of the quote unquote lesser royals. However, I will remind everyone that both Harry and Andrew are still in the line of succession, even though in both cases they are not official working members of the royal family, albeit for very different reasons. Basically, the only thing that can remove you from the line of succession is death, or actually becoming the monarch and then quickly abdicating.
Hmm.
One more title that is likely to change
Wait a
soon
minute.
is then quickly
Or becoming
abdicating.
Catholic?
One more
Really? I'm sorry it took me a minute to process that. I'm like, huh. Okay, I did not expect that. That's interesting.
title that is likely to change soon is that of the king's youngest brother, Edward. He is currently known as the Earl of Wessex. However, it has long been known that he will eventually be named the Duke of Edinburgh. This title was previously held by the king's father, Prince Philip, but it automatically passed to Charles when Philip died. However, now that Charles is king, the title has basically gone extinct
Oh wow.
because a king cannot officially hold any lesser titles.
Hmm.
This now means that he can bestow it anew on whoever he chooses, and it's almost certain that he'll bestow it on Edward. From there, it will presumably pass to his son James, and then on to James's son if he has one. The king's only sister is currently known as the Princess Royal, a title traditionally given to a monarch's eldest daughter. But again, a person can only receive the title if it is available. For example, Queen Elizabeth was never Princess Royal, even though she was the eldest daughter of a king.
Hmm.
This is because during the entire time that George VI was king, the title was held by his sister Mary.
Oh.
If Princess Anne were to die anytime soon, the title would become vacant because Charles does not have any daughters.
Hmm.
However, if Anne dies when William is king, then presumably the title will be bestowed upon William's daughter, Charlotte.
Hmm.
I should also point out that it's possible that Louis may someday be given the title Duke of York, as this title has traditionally been given to second-born sons. And unless the king decides to strip Andrew of his title and give it to Harry, the next person who's likely to get it will probably be Louis, sometime after William is king. Okay, so that was a look at some of the changes that have occurred since the passing of Britain's longest reigning monarch
Okay.
of all time. Thanks for watching.
Dang. Straight to the point and easy to follow. I love that. Alright, that's cool to know. Like I said, this is the most topical subject. Like, I mentioned that, for those of you who are new, I'm a history reaction YouTuber. I mainly only watch history videos and, like, historical fiction movies and films. So I just stick in history. I don't, like, venture out to stuff like Star Wars or fantasy, you know? And I usually like learning about the past, mainly, like, away from the modern age. Usually, I when I first started this channel, I'm like, I'm leaving the limit to, like, World War One, but I feel like this month I've kind of broken down that limit as I've looked at, World War Two, and now this being probably the most present video I've seen in history, since it's happening, like, right now in my lifetime, so, this is definitely new territory for me, but I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the way UsefulCharts broke it down, the titles, how the succession is held. I'm really happy to have a better insight into the dynamic of stuff like that within the royal family, and showing definitely more than it's just, okay, it's just king, prince, duke. Like, there's a lot more to it, you know, titles. And so I'm just really happy to have learned and gotten more insight into that. So overall, yeah, great video, and definitely more useful charts in the video in the future if this does well. So yeah, bye everyone.